Okay na po.
Good day, Kavibal, and welcome to our Learning Skills Diagnosis webinar series. For the discussion today, the topic will be on profiling students, a learner's background diagnosis. Before we begin, take note of the following reminders. Make sure you are registered to the webinar to have your e-certificate of participation. Visit certificate.vibalgroup.com to generate your proof of attendance. Place your questions on the comment box allotted during the session and they will be addressed by our speaker later on. Share the video using hashtag LearnAsOnePH as our official hashtag to our Vibal webinars. Experience learning, Kavibal. And now, to proceed with our webinar this afternoon, It is my pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished speaker today. He is a consultant and evaluator for K-12 Philippine Basic Education, the curriculum and academic consultant of Sisters of Mary. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Brother Roderick M. Aguirre.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So here we are again. This is the last day of the week on our learning diagnosis training, and hopefully we shed some light on some of the questions that you have in your mind about how important diagnosis is in understanding and knowing our students, and we use this data for us to be able to come up with a better need appropriate learner-centered learning plans, albeit online and distance education. And today, Friday, sorry, my hair is, my hair is growing long and still getting curly and all. Anyway, so today is all about a diagnosis, a system that would help schools be able to cull together data coming from different sources of information from home and school to come up with a better way to understand our students, a holistic way to understand and diagnose the strengths and weaknesses of our students, not only academically, but all other domains that we need to consider in order to understand the status of our students. This student profiling is authored by yours truly. I designed this system a long time ago, but it's still in the process of being refined. And some of this parts of the design I already implemented with the Sisters of Mary and some other schools that I handled, but not fully though. So today it's going to be a national broadcasting of the system that I designed way back in 2014. And I hope you get the idea of this system, and you get to learn how it's done. And hopefully, if you want to know more about this, you can message me and message Vibal. I'm still in the process of finishing the manual. I call it as the manual for student profiling, so that all teachers in the field will be guided how to use it. Don't worry, um, I will not. It's for free. I'm just making designs for the Philippine education, and I don't charge people for that. Okay, this is for everyone and to help the Philippine educational system, especially the teachers and the schools, be able to understand better, come up with a better system to help our students so that they become more holistic learners uh, who are equipped to be lifelong learners. So before we proceed, I would like to present my PowerPoint presentation for this afternoon. All right, I think this one. Let me go back to the very beginning. All right. So again, those who would like to have a copy of my PowerPoint presentation, so via handout form or note form, do not hesitate to request from my mediators, Michelle and Jillian, a copy of those notes, PowerPoint notes. Okay, just to be clear, PowerPoint notes, especially on student profiling. I cannot provide you with a more detailed handout for this because I'm still finishing the manual. Hopefully, I'll be able to finish it by the end of September because the manual starts from preschool, which I'm going to explain later on, that the profiling begins at the stage where our students enter formal education. All right. So our title for this afternoon, which is my last session with you guys on diagnosis, and student profiling is a system that puts together all the results of your diagnosis from your students. Monday, I gave you ways how to diagnose your students' comprehension, reading comprehension of narratives and informational text. The results of that should be in the student profile for profiling purposes. And then, of course, all other results of diagnosis, interests, academics, performance, rubrics result from their quarterly performances, and other very essential information that can help us understand who our students are at the moment and where they're heading to. I'll call this as a learner's background diagnosis. All right. So to give us more guidance of what we're going to discuss this afternoon, I just prepared a little bit of an outline, the same as I do always. So I'll begin with an introduction, which we're going to identify and bust myths about student profiling and student diagnosis. So just three common misconceptions of teachers and educators out there about diagnosis and student profiling. Although I know you've heard about student profiling, you've heard of student profile, but not profiling. There's a huge difference between a student profile and student profiling. I'll explain to you the difference between a student profile, and a student profiling. Okay. Next, I'm going to present to you two student cases for us to profile. Okay, to do profiling. I'm gonna show you how profiling is done based on certain data that we are provided with. So contextualizing our discussion to some published statements or anecdotal records from experts. And of course, we proceed to our discussion using, of course, my well-known easy way flow of discussion, which is question answer format. And then finally, I will now entertain questions and clarify some vague concepts that you think I may not have been able to explain to you thoroughly. So if you have questions along the way, do not hesitate to key in your questions and your comments on the comments box below. And then finally, at the end of it all, I'm going to provide you with some conclusions, just summarize everything that we have discussed and provide you with certain challenges for us to be able to be better at helping our students become holistic individuals and lifelong learners. And let's begin with the introduction. Okay, let's identify the myths. I just identified three common myths. I know that, I'm sorry, before I begin, I know that in some parts of the Philippines it's already raining so hard, but here in Cavite, it's still really, really warm and I'm sweating profusely. But I could see from afar, moving towards Manila, the sky is so dark. Probably Manila and Quezon City is experiencing rain, and in a few hours, probably the rain will be in Cavite soon. All right, so here's myth number one. The statement says, teacher know their students and their preferences. A lot of teachers would say that I know who my students are. This is a myth, all right? Why? Because student profiling has not been used in the Philippines. I'm not sure it's been being used or in the world, but the agencies that use student profiling, the process of profiling would be NBI, National Bureau of Investigation. They do profiling of terrorists. We have also profiling for psychologists, clinical psychologists profiling their clients. And we have also profiling for law cases and all. But profiling, the idea of profiling has not been yet thoroughly used in the educational system. I'm the one actually introducing the idea of profiling for our students. And it's not that difficult. It's really easy if only a lot of people will contribute to the collection of the data for us to be able to have a better profiling of our students. And therefore, I would say that teacher knowing their students and their preferences. I believe that a lot of students, a lot of teachers think that they know their students, but along the way, marami mga estudyante nagsasabi na pagdating sa high school, bakit ang kulit nito ngayon sa high school? Nung elementary, sabi nila hindi naman. Well, hindi nyo kilala sa estudyante nyo. You could have probably predicted such behavioral changes if you just profiled your students. Probably you would also say that ang tali-talino pa naman ng batang yan, pat bigla na lang ngayon bumabagsak ng bagsak. You may not have thoroughly profiled your students in terms of both academic and non-academic. Probably there was already changes happening with the student as he moved from one key stage to another, but because teachers were only focused on the academic profile instead of all other profiles of the students, like study habits, like behavioral changes, like social-emotional changes, and all other factors that would contribute to the success of the students, especially on the growth and development side that our students will go through hormonal changes as they grow, there's a possibility of changes happening in their cognition, in their cognitive domain, and the language domain, not to mention definitely on their physical domain changes. A lot of us teachers have focused so much on just academic profile, but not the holistic student profiling that I'm going to present to you today. Therefore, statement number one, teaching know their students and their preferences. I disagree. This is a myth. For as long as you do not use the idea of profiling or the system of profiling, you will never know your student. Even parents do not know their kids. In fact, it's a process of knowing. Okay, teacher, know. What I'm introducing here is the process of getting to know. You will never know your students, but it is a process of getting to know your students and be able to help your students in the process of knowing themselves and growing and learning and becoming an individual. Okay. Again, I'm sorry. I need to lower down my energy. I've been drinking coffee since the morning, and then during lunch break, it was so warm here in my place, so I opted to drink uh, soda, cold soda. So I think I'm hyper right now, full of sugar, and I need to slow down. Otherwise, I'll be slurring my words. Okay, statement number two. It says, schools adopt its scholastic and non-scholastic programs to students' needs. I disagree. A lot of school programs, school student interest and organizations have already been placed so that, well, especially for the private and public schools, is for the school to win quizzes, to win quiz bees, to win a lot of competitions, so that the school will have certain announcements to the public that the school, their students won this contest, first place, second place, and third place. The winners, these students who win contest, does not profile all of your students. That will be the profile of that particular student, but it does not mean it is the profile of fewer students. What's happening with the schools in the Philippines is that we're using one student, two students, or top 10 students, or the best, and their profile becomes the profile of the whole student. What if sadyang matalino lang talaga yung 10 yon, pero wala namang nagawa ang school? To me, contests and quiz bees, the results of which are good profile for particular students who are excelling, but it does not mean it is a good feedback of the whole school program. What I would say is, if majority, say 90% of your students, say 60 or 40% of your students came to your school with low academic profile, and then when they graduated from your school, almost 100 of them have high academic program, not just the 10 students, I would say you have a good school program, right? Let's not look at just the 10. Let's look at the whole population. And then individually look at ours. And therefore, statement number two is busted. Not one in this school in the Philippines would actually profile all the students or use the profile of their students to be able to guide students in order to achieve scholastically and non-scholastically. Okay, maraming nga nagsasabi na magaling kasi, alam ko meron kayong mga sitwasyon na nagsasabi, alam mo yung sudyaan na top 1 namin, ang galing talaga sa math at science. Magaling naman sa English kaya lang written, pero pag sa oral mahina. Paano nangyari yun? How can we say that a student is good and yet one component in his development was not well developed? Mamaya ko explain kung anong sinasabi natin na profile ng isang bata for the child to be holistically developed using, of course, a student profile. And the third and last statement, so therefore, wala pa, hindi ko pa nasabi pala. And therefore, together, people out there, statement number 2, schools adopt its scholastic and non-scholastic programs to the needs of students is definitely busted. Okay, it does not. Okay, I would go for highly individualized. Okay, highly individualized learning program. Last statement. I should put my face here at the center, so I'll be looking at the camera instead of looking at the other side. Just strategically put it there in the center, so you get to have a feeling that I'm talking to you directly. Pardon the glistening forehead. Anyway, you're not here for because of the glistening for you're with the information anyway. All right, statement number 3 says face-to-face interaction is the best teaching and learning process in order to get to know the students well. This is more of getting to know your students well. In fact, this is one of the least most effective way of getting to know your students. A lot of teachers do not have time to get to know their students while they are having face-to-face interaction with students because they need to finish the lessons that they have prepared for their students. In fact, a lot of teachers do not know their students really well. Marami nagsasabi nga, di ko ang kilala yung mga bata kung ginagawa nila sa bahay. So in fact, there are the multiple ways of getting to know your students would be through online, like forms that you need to provide the parents. It could be a form that you provide the parents at home so that they fill out the information that you need to profile your students appropriately. Or if not, we can use the online and distance education right now using the online platforms. You can create Google documents and put there all the information that you need in order for you to profile the students. I will later provide you with the domains that you need to profile among your students so that you can actually know your students. Therefore, face-to-face interaction is the best teaching and learning process in order to get to know the students well? No. Your teachers are focused more on teaching than of knowing your students. More often than not, the teachers get to know the academic achievement of their students after the first quarter or second quarter, or every after an assessment. That's when they get to know their students, but only a glimpse of who their students are. That's only the academic achievement part. That's academic profile. There are other parts of the student profile that we need to know. Para sa akin kasi, ang nagpo-profiling talaga dapat ang advisor. Okay? Mamaya ko sabihin sa inyo na kung anong dapat ginagawa ng isang advisor to profile. In fact, sa homeroom, I highly suggest that during the homeroom, doon po magagawa ng profiling si teacher. All right. Therefore, statement number 3, face-to-face interaction is the best teaching and learning process in order to get to know the students well is busted. Is a myth. Okay. Now let's proceed to an anecdotal record. Okay, so that we can, place and contextual our discussion about diagnosis using the student profile from an expert's perspective. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I think on student profiling, I could say since I'm the proponent of that, I could say I'm an expert on it. All right, let's have student phase 1. Let's profile based on this anecdotal record. Okay, let's read. Adam is an 11th grader. Okay, and whenever the teacher gives him an assignment which is unfamiliar to him, he argues about why he has to learn the material or why he has to do it. All right. The arguments usually last a few minutes and end with the teacher becoming upset and sending him to the resource room. When he gets to the resource room, I think it's in the library or the guidance office, the resource room teacher sits down with him and explains what he needs to do to complete the assignment. Adam starts to work without any further comment. Okay, let's profile. Let's look at how old Adam is. Adam is an 11th grader, and whenever the teacher gives him an assignment which is unfamiliar to him, he argues about why he has to learn the material on why he has to do it. Ang unang makikita ng mga teacher, ang sama ng ugali. No, let's look at first the positive side on his social emotional domain. There are 4 domains. We have the cognitive domain, and we have the language domain, we have the physical domain, and the social emotional domain. Let's look at the social emotional domain here. You could see that Adam could express his feelings, and in fact, he's being honest to his teacher. Sabi dito, he argues about why he has to learn the material or why he has to do it. Ang tingin ng teacher sa ang tingin ng teacher sa outburst ng bata ay talagang walang alam. Pero yung outburst na to should have been interpreted by the teacher that Adam is asking for support, asking for help. So what did the teacher do? pinalis niya. Okay? Ito yung sinasabi ko na hindi natin na-train ang mga teachers natin to understand the behaviors, the behavioral manifestations of our students to be able, ang tawag nga natin doon ay profiling. Ang profiling is based on a particular domain. We're able to diagnose the needs of our students. Ang nakita lang dito, ang sama ng ugali ng bata, sumasagot to sa akin. Wait, 11 years old na yan, may utak na yan. Talagang sasabihin at sasabihin niya ang kanyang nararamdaman. In fact, he is being honest. Probably, hindi lang niya alam kung paano sabihin sa tamang pamamaraan. Kasi nga, outburst, argue talaga. Pwede mo sabihin, anak, I know what you mean, but you don't have to argue. If you want support from me, all you have to do is to say, ma'am, please, could you please help me on this? So pwede mong hindi tinuruan ni teacher. Ang ganda sinabi ng teacher, ang tingin ko dito, ang nasa utak ng teacher, walang modo tong batang to. Sumasagot sa akin. Habang yung iba, yes, yung iba nakakaintindi. Ito nga, pag may isang batang ganito ay nagsalita sa'yo, it's a cry for help. Simple. Siyempre, hindi alam ng teacher. Okay? Alright? When he gets to the resource room, tingnan mo ang difference. So, nag-respond si Adam doon sa resource teacher as opposed to his teacher. Bakit? Dahil support lang kailangan niya doon eh. Yun lang naman. So, titingnan natin ito. Ang data na to comes from the social-emotional development of the student. Cognitively, alam niya na hindi alam. Ibig sabihin, kailangan lang niya, di ba, cognitive domain, kailangan niya ng way of thinking. How can the child think of a way to accomplish the activity but he doesn't know it? In fact, he's being honest of his cognitive skills. Naiintindihan ko po ang instruction, kaya lang hindi ko alam kung paano gagawin. Kulang ako ng skills. Paano ba ginagawa yan? Alright? Siguro si teacher hindi nag-demonstrate. Okay? So, dito sa resource room, natulungan siya ng teacher, ng resource teacher. So, ano masasabi natin? Ano ang problema ni Adam? Ang problema ni Adam, one, kailangan niya ng technical and learning support from a teacher. Second, hindi lang niya pag-express ng kanyang emotions sa kanyang thoughts is not, positively delivered or constructively delivered. Probably he delivers his comments and his ideas in an argumentative way, not making it more democratic and more respectful to the teacher. So yun ang titingnan natin. So sana sa data na to, matutulungan natin ang bata kung anong pangailangan niya. Hindi, i-set aside lang natin siya. Alright? So this is what we call as profiling. We're trying to understand. We're trying to profile ano ba talaga ang problema ng bata. Ngayon, dahil nga si teacher hindi sanay mag-profile. Sanay lang siya na intindihin lang na kung magulo, makulit, walang alam. Nakahagulo sa buong klase, doon ka sa labas. Naman. I do understand that a lot of teachers they are faced with a lot of different students. Kaya ang sinasabi ko palagi po dito ay importante ang role ng advisor and the guidance counselor's office. I've been saying this for the past few webinars that a school without a good guidance counselor's office and without the training the homeroom teachers and training the school advisors or the class advisors on how to handle the students, especially on the profiling of students, then they will not be able to be fully equipped to help the students. Kasi yung mga content area teachers na hindi naman sila ang advisor, na hindi binigyan ng task na alagaan, parang anak-anak na nila to, mga estudyante nila, wouldn't care about the results, the profile of the students. Tagabigay lang sila ng data sa homeroom teacher o sa advisor. Okay? I think I need to look into the homeroom guidelines ng Department of Education Central Office. I'll look into that. Okay, next. Student case number 2. Let's have Billy, a student in the preschool. So from the senior high school, let's go down to the preschool. Okay, a student in the preschool classroom in which you work, okay, frequently leaves his assignment spot during circle time. The teacher has asked you to observe him for 5 days during circle time and count the number of times he leaves his spots. You collected the found data during the 5 days. So ibig sabihin, nakalagay dito, a classroom in which you frequently lives. Ibig sabihin, ang daming beses. Okay, ang daming beses sa circle time kasi ito yung part na si teacher ang nagbibigay ng information, kumakanta, nagbibigay ng mga konsepto. So, anong problema ng bata dito? Attention. The child is not able, has a very short attention span. Because of that short attention span, the child is not able to focus. And because the child has a problem with focusing, therefore his memory, working memory, is not fully functioning at the moment, lang ha, sa circle time. There's a possibility also on the other side that the information or the concepts are not too interesting to the student. So two sides palagi. Pag nag-profile tayo, source, ano ang meron sa bata at ano ang meron sa stimulus. So there's a possibility mababa ang short attention span ng bata sa circle time at hindi siya nakikinig. Umaalis siya eh. Bakit kaya? Tingnan natin sa other side. Baka hindi siya interesado sa pinipresent ng teacher. Hindi within interest. So there's a possibility ngayon, tingnan natin na the source of the problem. So this profile here, this anecdotal record needs further investigation. So kung sa akin to pinadala, sa school ko dati sa Aquinas, kung sa akin to pinadala, pupunta agad ako sa mag-schedule ako agad ng observation. Ganito pong ginagawa ko. Okay, so hinihingi ko palagi yung mga anecdotal records ng mga teachers ko sa grade school and high school, and then I would say, okay, sino mga estudyante ang kailangan kong bigyan ng extra observation. So I go around, I make sure that every week I go around school classrooms, I go roam around with particular purpose of identifying some of the students that the teachers have provided me with anecdotal records for me to look for further evidences of the sources of the problem, the students, because my job as a consultant of the school and is to support the teachers. Hindi lahat, ang mga teachers natin hindi na kaya mag-isip ng mga intervention programs. Hindi na rin nila kaya mag-diagnose. Therefore, the school must come up with a team, okay, to support them with diagnosis and understanding the learners. And kami na po, na nasa team po namin, on the guidance office and academic management, is to create intervention programs, tapos sila na lang po mag-implement. Para nakafocus lang po ang teacher namin sa pagtuturo, planning, instruction, and assessment. Okay? So yun po ang sinasabi. Alam po yun, sample lang po ng profiling po natin. Alright, so to understand how we do that and what is the importance of profiling, let's now move on to discussion. I ate up already 30 minutes of my time. But nonetheless, I still have an hour, so we can go further. Okay, question number 1 in our discussion is, what is student profiling? Okay, I will present it graphically though. Okay, student profiling is getting to know who our students as they enter our school. If our students enter in preschool, we need to profile who they are. And the profile should be, since they are entering to our school, is to profile their background, their family background, their personal background, for us to be able to understand who our student is at the moment. And what are those influences and sources that may be reasons why they have particular struggles with certain skills that they should have acquired at a certain point in their life and outside the school. All right, so that's we call as entry student profiling. So kunwari po ang bata pumasok sa school po natin ng preschool, sa public school, sa preschool siya pumasok. Therefore, ang mga preschool teachers must do entry student profiling. Mamaya ko explain kung ano mga laman po nun na hindi naman yata ginagawa sa Pilipinas. But if you go abroad, it's being used, being done, but it's not the way I want it to happen. Anyway, and then as the child, sorry with the picture, I couldn't find a picture with the same, hair with, isipin mo tumanda po siya. So as the child moves on to the other grade levels, ang tawag na po natin ay progressive and scholastic student profiling. Ibig sabihin, yung profiles entry profile ng estudyante po natin ay padagdag ng padagdag. Sabi nila sa akin, sir, parang portfolio assessment. Yes, kind of like portfolio assessment, but the portfolio assessment is more of academic in nature, academic results in nature than of the profile. Profile po natin, student profiling is not just academic, but the whole, the four big domains of holistic development. All right? So progressive scholastic student profiling hanggang sa pagdating sa high school, So, progressive scholastic student profile. So, ibig sabihin, ginagamit ng mga teachers sa current grade level yung mga experiences, ang mga results, ang profile ng bata in the previous grade level. Alright? Halimbawa po, sir, paano po kunwari ang bata po namin ay transferee galing po siya sa ibang school ng grade 3, pagdating sa amin po sila grade 4. So ano dapat? Ang unang hinihingi po natin, ang unang hinahanap ng mga schools ay yung report card. Yung report card po, no? O that's academic lang. Asan po yung other domains? So dapat buo pong profile. Can I have the profile with the student profile with the class record? May mga cases po kami noon na may mga estudyante kami tinatanggap, yung pala may mga behavioral problems. Kaya lang, syempre wala naman sa request ng sir, hinahanapan naman namin ng good moral character. Wala yun. Yung good moral character ay susulatin lang nila. What we need is the profile itself. Right? I'll show it to you anong sura po ng profile. Okay? So that's what student profiling is. Student profiling is understanding our students, collecting all academic and non-academic personal information, family background, put that on a file, and then dagdag po para po pile up, para yung mga teacher na tatanggap sa estudyante, meron siyang babasahin para may basihan siya. Alright? Okay. So, in short, question number 1, what is student profiling? It says profiling is the systematic recording and analysis of a student's multi-domain character. This is my definition, okay? Ako po nag-design ko on what student profiling. A student's multi-domain. So, ano yung mga domain na yun? Cognitive, language, physical, and social emotional. Okay? Characters to assess or predict her capabilities in a certain sphere like education, like student organization, and all other spheres that he may want to embark on, or to assist in identifying a particular group of learners. Kung ano ang mag-fit, anong mga estudyante na mas mag-fit siya. May basihan ngayon si teacher, ano ang small groups, okay? Na mag-fit ang bata at mag-thrive and will become successful at it. Minsan ang nangyari po sa mga teachers is na pag-grupo-grupo niya ang mga estudyante, nandun pala mag-aaway-away pala sila. And they don't have the exact combination of abilities and capabilities. So profiling helps our teachers to actually make all of these decisions before instruction happens. I hate my hair. Okay. To summarize our answer to question number 1, a learner profile is a document, project, or conversation that helps teachers learn more about their students. Learner profiles may include information such as personal background, skills, strengths, interests, aspirations, and passions, like likes and dislikes, and cumulative academic data. What's happening in the field right now is that we only have a student profile, but it's not actually a student profile. We only call it a student academic profile, not student profile. Under the student profile is their academic profile. What about their strengths and weaknesses? What about their learning styles? What about their emotional quotient? What about their intelligence quotient? Wala po tayo nun. So paano natin nalalaman na po progreso ang bata? Dapat mayroon tayong data on those. Okay? So let's proceed to question number 2. What is the importance of student profiling to teaching and learning process? So, sir, daldal kayo ng daldal dyan about student profiling. Importante ba yan sa buhay namin as teachers? Baka nakadagdag lang yan. I'm telling you again, this is specifically not for the teachers. Student profiling is a system for the whole school. It cannot be just one teacher. The teacher probably provides us with academic profile of the students, but at the end of the day, it's the school who has that system to help the students, both the students and the teachers, and even parents perhaps, to understand the progress of the individual learners. As long as the schools do not have this kind of system, our students, our schools would just focus on the academic achievement of our students. Puro lang academic achievement. Sir, meron po kaming sports. Yeah, I know, but ang nakakapasok lang sa sports ay yung mga talagang merong mula pagkabata, ang mga magulang ay active sa sports ng kanilang mga anak. Paano naman yung wala? Diba? So here are the importance to summarize, importance of student profiling. One, of course, is We will now be able to, with student profile and student profiling, we will now be able to identify the sources of student problems. Ito yung sinasabi po natin, minsan kasi ang sinisisi palagi ng school at ng mga magulang sa mga problema at mga problema ng mga estudyante, cause agad ay si teacher. In my experience as a consultant for schools, I have found out that most of the major problems, sources of problems of our students would come, number one, would be from the family and the inconsistencies of their routines, the inconsistencies of parenting at home. I'm sorry, but I have to be honest with this, okay? A lot of student discipline problems, behavioral problems of our students, the way how they behave at school, their academic goals in life stems mostly from their experiences at home. Okay. Second would be, of course, the school environment. I would say that the school environment, does it encourage students to excel actually? Not just the teachers per se. Dapat pagpasok ng, kung gusto mo ang bata ay would like to be academically driven, dapat pagpasok pa lang yung mga walls ninyo, marami ng mga signage, marami ng mga posts about science and math, bulletin boards, pero hindi naman lahat ng schools are updating their bulletin boards and announcements on that. Dapat prolific ang mga environmental print or academic prints in the hallways of the school. Plus, dapat may study areas. Na hindi, ang most of the schools that I've been to, kung hindi classroom, canteen, ang pinaka-importante, classroom, canteen, library. Asan ang student lounge where the students can rest and study? Dapat may pang-group, may pang-individual. Hindi. The school is just a school. Pasok sa classroom, labas, uwi. How will the students be encouraged? I think our school environment needs certain improvement. So pangalawa po yun. Third would be teacher. Pangatlo na teacher talaga. Pang-apat na po talaga ang mga specific disabilities of the student. Iba po ang deficits sa disabilities. May mental difficulties na mga bata, mental processing, global delay, and other disabilities. Okay. Second would be identify skills that need review. Ano yung mga skills na hindi pa na-acquire ng bata with proficiency. So, dapat itutuloy pa ng mga teachers. Hindi yung bigla na lang, ay wala lang pakialam dyan dahil nasa grade level na siya, nasa grade 7 na sila, at kahit hindi pa nila alam magbasa, bahala sila mag-survive. Talaga ba? Kahit anong tapos mo niyan, ikaw mag-frustrate dahil hindi pa sila literate, tapos pabasa, grade 7, puro na yung literature. Patay ka. Alright? Text number 3, monitor students' learning progress. We will now be able to know whether our students are improving from one key stage to another. Kaya sabi ko, dapat ang pinaka-importante sa moving up ceremony would be, culminatingly, would be knowing who are students as they progress from one key stage to another, from grade 3 to grade 4. Titingnan natin, nag-improve na ba ang kanilang cognitive functions? Nag-improve na ba ang kanilang language functions? Hindi. Basta nakatapos lang sila, tapos. That's not K-12. When we designed K-12, it was not designed as such. It was designed that at every key stage, all teachers involved in the development, in the learning of the students, in the holistic development of students, in that particular key stage must work together for 3 to 4 years and help the child acquire all those domain-based learnings and development. And that when they move on to the next key stage, we review individual students if they have met all of those criteria. Okay, next. Learning progress. Number 4, guide teacher planning instructions. Siyempre, malalaman na ng teacher na, ito yung mga estudyante namin galing sa grade 3. So, ito pala, may mga medyo mahina sa math. Ito pala yung medyo may problema sa akin. Ito kung tututukan ko. Hindi yung, dahil wala ngang data, ang mangyayari tuloy, yung mga teacher sa math, masashock na lang sila na, meron bang mga mahihina? Along the way lang nalalaman ng mga teachers at tumanggap ng mga estudyante na marami palang hindi pa nakakaintindi. Sorry, dapat, I should be nice because it's Friday. Sabi nga na TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. Sweldo pa yata ng iba dyan. Number 5, Evaluate effectiveness of instruction and assessment. How would we know if um, our instruction assessment was actually effective? Effective means were we able to address the needs of our learners, and were we able to facilitate an actual change in our students cognitively, in mathematics and math and all other cognitive functions. And finally, provide for informed guidance and counseling. Via the profile, the student profile, malalaman natin kung sino mga kailangan ng mga more counseling and more guidance programs for our students. Pero para sa akin kasi, guidance and counseling are not just for students who have problems. It should be for all. Dapat ito po yung palagi kong ina-argue, leadership training should not only for those student leaders. I don't believe that student leaders are born, they are made. So marami po dyan ng mga student leaders na minsan nung elementary pa lang, di pa sa feeling student leaders, pero meron na silang drive na kailang mahiyain. Sana yung ganung programa ng for guidance and counseling are for all students, not just for selected students. That's what I'm saying about student profile. Okay? So it is very important for us to keep in mind the goal of process of diagnosis. All right. So in student profiling, we need to understand, is there something wrong with my students? If there's something wrong, what's wrong? Particularly with my students. Saan domain may problema? Sa domain na yun, ano pong problema ng bata? Okay. What's the hang up? All right. What's getting in the way of learning, or are students proving what they in fact actually know? Bakit may problema? Bakit matalino naman siya, pero ba't nahiyain? Matalino siya, bumagsak naman siya. Alright, so we need to know, these are some questions. If our teachers are thinking about it, they are now actually delving into profiling. Pag nag-isip ka na, anong problema ng bata? Binigay ko naman, nagplano, binago ko na nga, ginandaan ko pa nga. Oh, yes, you're now profiling, pero ang perspective mo lang ay wala kang data talaga. Feeling mo lang na ito na dapat ang gagawin mo para masolve yung problema. But without proper profiling, we will not be able to really address the problems, student problems. All right, so let's move on to our third question, third to the last question. Sorry, second to the last question. What components are to be included in the student profile for appropriate profiling? So on that note, ito na po ay mga laman ng student profile. I'm just checking the time. It's already, I still have 45 minutes, I suppose. All right. So the K-12 program will not just for the K-12 program, but for the whole curriculum in the world wants our students to be holistically developed, imbued with the 21st century skills. Am I right? Okay. So dapat, okay. So pag holistically developed ang bata, dapat na-develop yung kanyang 4 domains. Na-develop ang 4 domains. First domain would be the cognitive development. We call them as the mental skills, all right? Now we need to equip our students with the mental skills. And what we're using in the Philippines would be the revised Bloom's taxonomy. We need to help our students to remember, to understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. Therefore, all teachers out there, I'm sorry, I'm not going to say teachers. All schools out there must equip their teachers with thorough training on the use of Bloom's taxonomy, not just on assessment, but also on planning and on instruction. Ito po yung tinitrain ko sa mga teachers po namin sa Sisters of Mary na ito ang domains natin sa assessment. Kung anong domains natin sa ina-assess natin sa mga bata, dapat yun din nagre-reflect sa instruction. Ngayon, I need to know kung nagre-reflect sa instruction mo ay nandoon mismo sa plans. That's why we created the modules. The modules reflect the mental skills that we want to be taught to our students. Kung anong tinuro sa mga bata, yun din i-assess. This is what we call as consistency of the taxonomy. Whichever taxonomy you guys out there would choose, Bloom's taxonomy, levels of thinking, dimensions of thinking, there are many taxonomies out there. For as long as it is consistently used in 3 areas, planning, instruction, and assessment, then I believe that the cognitive development of our students, their mental skills, will be gradually developed as they progress from one grade level up to the other grade levels. Okay? Sige po. So, meron po tayong mga training sa susunod nito. So, itong last na training ko po to on profiling, I just realized na ano pa ang kailangan yung training. So magkakaroon po tayo ng training on assessment. That will be probably on October na kasi next week we will have training on constructing diagnostic instruments. Okay? Kasi maraming pong nagko-comments na, Sir, tinuturuan nyo lang kami ng proseso ng pag-diagnose, pero paano gumawa ng instrumento ng diagnostic instrument? Turuan nyo kami yan. And that's what we're going to learn next week. Okay? So, Sir, cognitive development, paano namin i-assess ang bata? Saan namin kukunin ng data niyan? Makukuha po natin yan sa results ng kanilang mga assessments. Okay? That's why it's called cognitive development. So, pwede natin kunin po yan sa kanilang depende po sa school, pwede po quarter assessment. Kasi sa Sister Samira ginagamit namin sa cognitive development profile ng mga bata ay all the summative tests and the quarter assessments. Okay? Tas kasama po ang performance. So all of those assessment areas as stipulated in Department Order Number 8 Series of 2015. All right. The second domain for our profiling would be the language development domain. Na-develop na ba ang listening, viewing, speaking, reading, and writing? Definitely that should be assessed. Kumusta ang listening skills ng mga bata? Question is, have we diagnosed the listening skills? In fact, listening skill is the most required of all skills, of the language skills in the teaching and learning process. Mas maraming gamit ang listening sa pagkatuto ng bata. Sa pakikinig kay teacher, sa pakikinig sa mga videos, pakikinig sa mga online materials, audio materials, be it in face-to-face, be it in online or distance education, mas importante ang listening sa lahat ng skills. Susundo ng viewing dahil sa mga materials na pinapakita sa mga bata, mga audio files, ang mga visual aids na pinapakita sa mga bata, importante yan. This is not just the responsibility of all subject areas, but I would say that the assessment done on the language development should come from the language groups. The question is, natatransfer po ba ito sa other subject areas? Baka naman sa language subjects pa lang, sa Math and sa English and Filipino, hindi na tinututukan ang listening. Hindi na tinututukan ang viewing. Wala talaga. So, do you expect your students to have good learning skills and study habits if listening and viewing are actually compromised? Sunod, speaking. Naka-diagnose ba tayo ng speaking? Hindi lang naman pronunciation ng speaking. It's only one area of the domain of speaking. What about turn takings? Ang dami po niyan. Next would be reading and writing, which is on literacy. Nagkaroon po tayo ng diagnosis on literacy. How do we actually assess our students on their literacy? Kasi mga bata, if they're kahit pag gaano katalino yun, pag hindi literate, wala rin. May mga bata po na sobrang talino, kaya lang po dahil hindi tinuruan ng pagbasa at pagsulat. Although sabi nga natin, kung matalino talaga yan, tuturuan nila sarili na. But then again, there are some skills that they need models, or they need to model from. So literacy po yung tawag natin doon. So kahit gaano katalino ang bata, kung mahina naman siya, yung skills niya sa pagbabasa, sa pagsusulat ay hindi well developed, he or she will still struggle in all other subject areas. So cognitive development, mental skills, and language development, communication skills are two of the four domains for student profiling. So kukolektahin po natin yan. All right. Next is the physical development domain. We call them generally as self-skills. Senses. Okay ba ang mga senses ng mga bata? Especially developing sciences. Okay? Cross-motor, SMAPE, fine motor skills, athleticism and sportsmanship. Sabi ng mga schools, hindi po kasi lahat ng bata ay mahilig sa sports. Hindi. Sa elementary, hindi pa nila alam kung gusto nila o hindi. Dapat sa elementary, expose sila lahat. Doon pa lang sila sa high school perhaps, magkakaroon ng sarili nila na, ito kasi talagang gusto ko. Sa lahat ng kaya kong gawin na sports, itong gusto ko. Nakuha niyo ako doon. Just observe. Our athletes, our professional athletes and professional players in the field right now, some of them started from volleyball, swimming, and so on and so forth before they chose their particular sports. My point here is that dapat ang mga bata exposed. They do not know what they can do and what they're capable of. Therefore, in the elementary days, they must be exposed to all of those so that they will know what they want to focus more on high school. Hindi naman natin tinuturuan ng mga bata eh. Pinipili lang natin. Alright? And finally, we have the social emotional domain and then identity. Do they know who they are? Do they respect themselves? Do they know what their strengths and weaknesses? Next, do they know how to interact with other people? Tinuturuan ba natin ng socialization skills sa mga bata? Empathy, and then discipline, and then emotional quotient. Do we have those data for us to know na matalino nga yan pero pangit ang ugali? Maraming ganun, di ba? Ang matalino yan, magaling tayo mag-communicate, okay, pero pangit ang ugali yan. Walang sports yan, tamad yan. So ganun mga profile natin, matalino tong batang to, pero uwi lang bahay, tulog na ko, magkakasakit to. Magkakaroon to ng diabetes, so kailangan natin itong turuan. So nalalaman natin holistic. Ang ginagawa kasi natin puro lang academic. Hindi ganito. So some of the subjects must be ilagay natin dito. Math, all subjects would come from the cognitive. Lahat naman kailangan ng cognitive language, syempre Filipino and English. Pagdating sa physical development, nandito po yung ating science and MAPE. Sa social emotional development natin, nandito doon po yung ating subject areas. Pero pati kasama po dapat ang scholastics at non-scholastics. Kasi sa fine motor, sa athleticism, sa sportsmanship. Okay? So, pag na-profile po natin daw, ang cognitive development would give us a glimpse of the development of their critical and creative thinking. Pag meron tayong data on language development, malalaman natin ang literacy and numeracy skills ng mga bata. Pag meron tayong data data ng estudyante about their physical development, we would know about their wealth and well-being. And then finally, if we have data about social emotional development, then we would know their relational skills and spirituality. So these are the 4 big domains of student profiling. We will see, isa lang dito ang kulang sa bata, hindi na siya holistic. Mag-struggle na siya sa school. May problema lang, okay siya sa critical cognitive, sa critical creative thinking, relational skills, sa 3, pero may problema sa health and well-being. Mabubuli yan. Magagamit lang yan ng ibang estudyante. Mahina ang loob. Mahina yan dyan. Oh. Tapos, puro kain ng kanyan. Tataba yan. Dahil pag tumaba, bababa kanyang self-esteem, ay yung identity niya. So, konektado pa rin. Babalik siya sa full circle again. So, paano kunwari, athlete siya. Tapos, magaling siya. Athlete siya, magaling siya athlete siya, health, well-being siya. Tapos, kasi siya eh. Okay, athlete siya eh. Pero mahina sa reading and writing, mahina sa thinking, wala rin yan. So tawag lang natin dyan ay gwapo lang, maganda lang, sexy lang, pero walang laman ng utak. We don't want that for our students. All right? So let's now proceed to the last question, which is, how is student profiling done used for students' diagnosis? Ito na po eh. Tadantanin ko na mo ito. Isa-isahin ko na, don't worry, we're almost done. This is the last question, and I will be entertaining questions probably around 3:50. Okay, student profiling. We start in the K-12 curriculum. We have key stages. If you've read the IRR, implementing rules and regulations, since I was also part of the original people who conceptualized the K-12 curriculum and designed the K-12 curriculum in the Philippines, we have about 4 key stages. The first key stage is the kindergarten or the preschool. And then we have the second key stage would be primary grades to middle grades. So key stage natin preschool, primary grades, and middle grades. But when we rolled out the K-12 curriculum in the field, ang nangyari po ay ang ating key stage po natin ay preschool to primary grades and then middle grades. So whichever you see it, it's okay. Basta profiling is done on the entry. All right? So ang gusto nating malaman is, was there thorough training, thorough development among our students at a particular key stage? So I would like to be true to the implementing rules and regulations of the K-12 law, that the key stage 1 is kinder and key stage 2 would be primary grades to middle grades. That would be grade 1 to grade 3. All right. So the entry profiling of our students. So pagpasok sa preschool pa lang daw, the school must profile the students. So since preschool yan, ito yung una mong hahanapin sa bata. Personal information. All right. Ano ang kanyang pangalan, yung edad niya, age, yung basic personal information niya. pero dadagdagan nyo po ng home literacy activities. Pero I would like to add that the personal information po doon, because research showed that yung attitude ng mga magulang towards education ay na-contribute sa success ng mga bata. So kasama sa personal information po would be the educational attainment of the parents and all other caregivers present at home that would influence the students. So personal information are those sources at home that may influence the development of the child. Next would be home literacy activities. This is a checklist. Meron pong ginawa na neto si Bernhardt. So if you would like to, and this is also my undergraduate study, the home literacy activities, I did an ex post facto. My classmates and I came up with, a checklist of the best students in grade 3 at bakit trace back namin kung ano ang mga ginagawa sa bahay, bakit sila naging academically, achievers or academic achievers. And ito po yung mga home literacy activities like availability of pencils and ballpens at home, reading books, appropriate reading books at home. So mayroong mga checklist po niyan. So if you'd like to know more home literacy activity checklist, you can just, go online and there are a lot of profile instruments, sample instruments on home literacy activities. Now, if you would like to have the one that I created, maghintay po kayo na i-publish po namin ang aking manual on student profiling. And I'm finishing the manual on this, so para pa niyo magamit. So, home literacy activities. Kasama yan sa entry profile ng mga bata. Bakit po kailangan to? Dahil para malaman natin kung sino dito yung madaling turuan na at meron ng experience. At para malaman natin sino kailangan natin tutukan. Importante yan sa mga preschool teachers. So school must provide, the school must have the home literacy activities because this information can help greatly our teachers to know sino ang madali nating turuan, paano ang grouping, baka mapagrupo-grupo niya walang masyadong background experience on literacy. Next, intelligent quotient. So importante po natin na kung nag-i-improve po because the formula for intelligence quotient or IQ is mental age over chronological age. Dapat habang tumatalino ang bata. Well, intelligence quotient is more of the vocabulary development of our students. The more concepts they know that can be represented by words, the more that they become more intelligent because they have more concepts and representations to process and help them process information in their head. So importante lang po natin na nakikita natin nag-improve naman ng mga bata. Well, not just intelligent quotient but also the domains, the emotional quotient. Titingnan po natin kung nag-improve. Sir, wala po kami instrument ng intelligence quotient at emotional quotient. I'm highly recommending, I'm sorry Vibal, but I would like to recommend some of my colleagues' instruments that they created. I worked with CEM, the Center for Educational Measurement. I forgot there was also an psychological association in the Philippines who offered me a partnership, but I was too busy at the time to pay attention to it. So I hope that there are some psychological society in the Philippines or CEM could, contact me and then you can finish the student profile to help our students para kasama po sa package yung intelligence quotient sa emotional quotient. Dapat natetest kasi ang bata habang tumatagal, nag-i-improve ba siya? Baka naman tumatalinong bata, pero ang kanyang emotional quotient bumababa. So dapat natin malaman, ay mahina ang socialization activities ng school. We need to know where our school is, having problems with. Well, not just school, but also at home perhaps. Baka ang mga bata sa bahay ay hindi pinapayagang lumabas ng mga magulang. So we need to know that. Next would be executive functions. These are some of the things, mental skills that students must be able to start developing at home. I've already discussed what executive functions are, so you may want to review on my executive functions and what environmental domains. Nandun din po mga ways, mga checklist. Inisisa ko po yun. So pwede nyo pong gamitin ang checklist na yun. Again, kung ayaw nyo, gusto nyo buong na po, hintayin nyo po matapos ko ang manual. Don't worry po, hindi ko po papayagan na matapos pong taon na hindi ko po nailalabas ang student profiling manual for the Philippines. All right? I think that would be my gift for the educational system for the Philippines. Well, of course, the K-12 program to the kindergarten program to the journalism program. Well, there are many programs that, I love that the whole Philippines will be able to provide to our students. I believe the students serve quality education from us. All right. Now, as they learn things during the course of preschool, we need to understand, dapat malaman natin ano mga student interest. So, dito na pumapasok yung mga observation ng mga teachers, nakikita niya mga student interest ng mga bata, ano mga games, ano mga activities, ano mga songs, ano mga toys na gusto nila. Then we have, of course, the ECCD checklist. Okay? Dr. Inchong, thank you very much for our short conversation, but I totally understand the importance of ECCD checklist. And now, kasama po yan sa student profiling ko in the entry level in the preschool. So I'll give you a copy for your perusal and for your approval, of course, later on. Thank you very much. Then, of course, I am very particular with the learning styles of our students because I am a believer that our students have their own personal learning style, but as they move on and as they progress in the educational ladder, they must acquire all other learning styles. So dapat malaman natin ano na ang dadagdag na learning style ng mga bata. Hindi habang tumatagal, ang mga teachers po natin hindi nga alam kung ano ang mga learning styles ng mga bata natin. Palagi silang every time na pumapasok sa bagong grade level, sabi ng mga teacher, baka ibang learning style, nai-improve ba? Nadadagdagan ba ang learning styles ng mga bata natin? Hindi pwedeng from the very beginning, they have always been solitary learners. Hindi dapat mag-move sila from solitary to social learners, from social learners to tactile learners. Habang tumatagal, dumadami dapat, na-acquire niya lahat ang learning styles. Holistic development. Next, to study habit. Nakikita ba natin? Dahil, syempre, before preschool, wala pa yan mga assignment, wala pang gagawin sa bahay. So, hindi natin malalaman kung ang bahay, ang bata ay nagkakaroon ng study habit. But when the child enters school, especially in preschool, nagkakaroon ng mga additional activities at home. So, titingnan natin kung nagkakaroon ng study habit ang bata. Okay? Right. So, lahat ng information na to, isa-summarize dapat ng advisor. Okay? Ilalagay ang isa-summarize ng advisor ng preschool para ibibigay sana as entry profile sa mga grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 teachers. So, ang tawag na natin doon ay preschool profile. So, yung mga nakuha sa personal information, home literacy, alam mo, hindi naman babago ang kanilang magulang, di ba? Hindi naman babago. Unless, diba, pwede lang po nating update ang kanilang personal information kung ito po ay merong certain relevant information na nagbago. Like, lumipat ng bahay, and so on and so forth. Wala naman siguro nagbago ng gender. Alright. Next, we have the academic profile. So, pagdating kasi sa primary grades, sa preschool kasi wala pa masyadong academics, pero pagdating sa primary grades, as they learn the subjects, they go through the subjects, magkakaroon sila ng academic profile. Sa preschool, wala pa sila ng academic profile. So, ECCD checklist lang po pinapagamit natin as per DepEd Order number 8 series of 2015 and guidelines, implementing rules and regulations of the K-12 program. So, we have the academic profile, magkakaroon ng mga subjects sa mga bata dito. Yung ang kanyang results sa mga test, major test niya, papasok na sa academic profile ng bata sa from grades 1 to grade 3. That's why I call it primary grades. So dapat tinitingnan nila na yung information galing sa preschool kina-carry over to the primary grades. Okay? Then we have non-academic profile. Anong performance ng bata sa other non-academic? Halimbawa, ang bata ay merong silang sports program, merong robotics, and so on and so forth. Non-academic na hindi required ng Department of Education. So all other programs that the school offers, like journalism, what else? Sports program, interest programs, and we call them as student organization, student interest clubs. We will have a webinar on that 2 weeks from now. So that would be on the last week of September. We will have a training on paano ba natin ituloy mga student organization or non-academics programs of the school nakasama sa profile ng mga bata. Okay. Next. Habang tumatagal sa primary grades, kinukolekta dapat ng homeroom ang mga anecdotal records ng mga bata from the grade level, from the subject area teachers. Kaya lang, maganda po sa primary grades sa public school kung self-contained dahil siya rin nagtuturo ng mga subject areas. So siya rin nagagawa ng anecdotal records. Then we have home visitation. Alright, so requirement po natin ng home visit. Yung mga teachers ko po dati sa Aquinas po ay tinuruan ko sila kung paano mag-home visitation. I provided them with guidelines how to do it. So hopefully, continue po yun. So for the teachers out there po, hindi lang kayo nag-visit, dapat mayroon po kayong protocol. There's what we call as guidelines for home visitation para po preserve po ang personal data information ng mga magulang at ng mga tao na nasa bahay at certain permission po. May sunod pinipirmahan po yan. Alright? And then all of this information will be summarized by all teachers in grades 1 to grade 3 as exit profile. Key stage po ito ha. So ito, nasa grade 3 na po sila kunwari. So move on sila sa grade 4. So isa-summarize po yan ng mga teachers or kung sino man ang homeroom teacher or sino advisor ng grade 3 na yun, siya magsa-summarize ng profile ng bata. At yun po gagamitin ng mga grade 4 to grade 6 teachers para gamitin po as entry profile ng mga estudyante. So, ang mga teachers po sa middle grades, meron na po silang matatanggap. Sana dapat, kung nasunod lang ang K-12, may matatanggap na ang ating middle grade teachers na preschool profile, tapos pinagsama ng academic profile and total records home visitation, sinamarize na po ng mga homeroom teachers ng grade 3, madadagdagan po ang profile ng bata na primary grade profile. Dito, malalaman ngayon ng mga grade 4 teachers ano ang mga nagagawa na ng bata, sino ang mga literate, sino ang mayroong problema sa mental skills, sino ang may mga nag-excel sa sport, sino may problema sa relation, sino may iyan, and so on and so forth. Hindi yung pagdating sa grade 4, grade 5, teachers are assuming na naturo lang. Assumptions are not good. Assumptions are good as just assumptions. But we need profile. We need the student profile. Ito pong manual na ginagawa ko po, o ginawa ko, pinopost ko po, ay na-embed po namin sa K-12 program. Hindi lang siguro nabigyan ng emphasis. But this is a system that the whole school should do. And nangyayari po kasi is highly academic lang po talaga mga schools natin, not highly student development. Holistic development po ang nakalagay sa K-12 curriculum. Let us be reminded of that. Not academically proficient. Our students in the K-12 curriculum we want our students that after going through the K-12 program, they become holistically developed individuals. Holistically, right? So, gamitin po natin. So, paano po ginagawa yon? So, ang gagawin po ng mga teachers ay lahat ng teachers ng bawat key stage bago lumabas, mag-exit ang bata, isa-isay nila ang mga bata. Okay? Or kung hindi, magsama ang advisor po. Pwede po kasing gawin yan sa data, sa Excel. Sa cognitive, test-based lang naman po. Ang cognitive development po natin is quantitative data. Language development po natin is quantitative data. Ang ating physical development ay rubrics-based. Ang ating social emotion development, rubrics-based, analytic rubrics. So, ang gagamitin lang naman po na data ng mga teachers natin ay sa taas po natin, we have the cognitive development are quantitative, while the below po, social, emotional, and physical is both quantitative and qualitative data. So, isa-summarize lang po ng teacher. Again, kung hindi nga naman train ang ating mga teachers how to use and how to call together all of these types of data, mahirapan nga naman si homeroom teacher. Hindi, ang ginawa po natin sa mga teachers ay advisor ka, ikaw ang homeroom, tinuruan ba natin mag-profile? One of the many responsibilities of an advisor, class advisor, and for a homeroom is to do profiling of students, student profiling. And I hope that all teachers, Ma'am Carol po, Ma'am Nelsie, so I'll provide you with a copy po. I'm hoping to finish this manual, not just for the whole Philippines, but specifically for the Sisters of Mary. Each sila po yung unang makakuha ng sistema na ito. So all other schools po, after the Sisters of Mary. Okay? So, may profile po. So, ito po dapat ang nakalagay. Ito pong tinututukan. Ano man lang 15 minutes to 30 minutes sa homeroom a week. Malalaman po natin. Tututukan lang po. Magbibigay po ng social, emotional. Alam po, nakafocus. Halimbawa, itong month na to, homeroom, cognitive development ang susupport ng teacher. Sunod po ay language po. So, kung lahat ng components na to ay binibigyan ng tuon po, sumusuporta sa mga estudyante at pangangailangan niya ng lahat ng sa learning niya, I do believe that the student's profile will improve a lot. Critical thinking mag-improve. Creative thinking will improve. Literacy and numerical skills will improve. Health and well-being will improve. Relational skills and spirituality will highly improve if our teachers would do that. Okay? So, kunwari, move on lang po tayo. Continue po tayo. So, sa middle grades po, again, gagamitin po ng mga teachers as ang ating case is junior high school, and then we have the senior high school. Entry level po dapat makuha niya. Meron po silang si grades 4 to grade 6 teachers, makukuha niya yung profile na galing sa preschool at yung primary grade profile. And then on the course of learning, maglalagay po ang mga teachers ng academic profile. results ng mga tests, lahat po yun. And then non-academic profile ng bata, yung mga interest clubs na tinasalihan niya, organizations, anong performance niya doon, so rubrics po ulit. So ito pong sinasabi ko, lahat po sana ng organizations, student organizations, turuan po natin ang mga bata na after ng kanilang activities, meron po sila palagi pong evaluation. Okay, yung mag-evaluate, self-evaluation, at group evaluation, para po meron po tayong non-academic profile na ilalagay. Galing po doon sa mga organizations na yun. Hindi eh. We just created those organizations because kailangan ng PEA, kailangan ng mandated ng Department of Education ng Central Office. Hindi lang po ganun yun kasi it develops the holistic development of our students. So nakalagay nga po sa organizations sa pag-manage ng student organization is that meron pong entry, okay, entry assessment sa mga bata at saka mga ongoing assessment sa mga bata, especially every after their activities. Evaluation po, self-evaluation and group evaluation po ang ating tinuturo sa kanila. And finally, we have anecdotal records, continuous pa rin po yan, and home visitations, continuous pa rin po yan. And then all of this information will be summarized by all the teachers of the middle grades, preferably, of course, with the help of the guidance counselor's office and the homeroom teacher or the class advisor to summarize it so that when the students are promoted to junior high school, all the teachers in the junior high school will receive the preschool primary grade profile and the middle grade profile. Sir, paano po kung ang mga bata ay lilipat ng isang school? Requirement nga ang profile, isa-submit ang profile. So, kunwari, ang isang bata galing sa public school, lumipat ng private school. Yung profile ng bata sa public school ay dapat ibigyan ng kopya. Siyempre may kopya pa rin kayong documentation sa inyong school. So, dapat may magbibigay pa rin kayo ng kopya, hard and soft copy to the receiving school so that they would have a continuous profile. Ang tawag po doon ay progressive at cumulative profiling of our students. Hindi yung back to zero ang bata pag lumipat ng school. Hindi dapat. Kasi ang tinitingnan po natin ay yung continuous development of our students. Right? And then during the course of the junior high school, all teachers will contribute to the compilation of the academic profile of the students and the non-academic profile of the students, and of course, anecdotal records and then home visitation. Okay? If necessary na po ito. And then finally, gagamitin po ito na exit ng mga profile na to will be summarized again by the homeroom teachers with the help of the guidance office or guidance counselor, and then will be the senior high school now teachers will now receive, before the start of the classes, will now receive the profile of students during the elementary, profile during junior high school, and then in the course of learning, magkakaroon sa academic profile, and then non-academic profile, legal records, and home visitation para ma-beef up, and then will be summarized by the teacher, exit po niya. Then, ang mangyayari po niyan ay, ideally, dapat po ang bata ay magkakaroon din siya ng kopya. So, pero mayroong kopya sa school, at then may kopya din po ang mga bata, dala-dala po nila. And then ideally po, dahil wala po akong alam kung require po ito ng university, because I do believe that high schools, the tertiary level should also require student profile to be submitted to them. Ang hinihingi lang po natin ay good moral, wala pong mga ganun-ganun man, halos na talagang nakakita yung details ng development ng bata. So with that being said, this is the complicated process of student profiling. It looks complicated, but I believe that through this system of student profiling, we will be able to help our teachers out there to make more informed decisions as to how they're going to go about their planning, their instruction, and their assessment of their students. And then talagang truly learner-centered po ang gagawin po nating learning environment for our students. Sana po matuloy-tuloy ko. I don't know if you're gonna wait for this, but I promise that I will finish basta hindi ko naman kayang matapusin by September kasi i-validate ko pa yan eh. I will have to finish, but before the end of the year, definitely it will be published. So this is the world of student profiling and summarize all about diagnosis. All right. So at this point, I will now entertain questions from the people out there. So if you have questions, Jillian, so please throw them to me.
Thank you very much, brother. Now let's proceed to the question and answer portion. Our first question is from DK Vlog Z. Sir, how can we apply such kind of profiling in the new normal?
Ma'am, mas maganda nga po yung, sabi ko nga kanina, mas madali po ngayon itong profiling na to sa new normal kasi nga pwede nyo pong gawin lang yung mga sheets. ipapadala lang sa mga, kung meron kayong mga messenger sa schools ninyo, ipapadala nyo. Hindi ko alam kung ginagawa nyo na po ito, pero alam ko dapat requirement po ito ng part po yan sa profiling po ng guidance office ng school po dapat. Nandun po yung sinasabi po natin ng personal data sheet, hindi lang nga lang kompleto ng information the way I wanted it, the way I'm proposing it to be. Dapat kompleto po yun para for the help of the students. So all of these tests po meron po sinasabi na online at meron po dan paper din po. So kung distance po yan, dapat pinapadala kung wala pong internet connection ng mga bata, then talagang paper pencil po ang mga bata. Magti-test po sila, individual po sila. And then the results of their answer sheets will be collected and then will be graded or will be checked by whoever is assigned to check it. And then ang results will be encoded on what we call as a student profile. Natin po sana. Tapos yung iba po, pwede pong, kung meron pong mga connection po sila sa online, so pwede pong gawin po lahat ng profiling po online. Yes.
Thank you very much, brother. Our next question is from Ferdinand Kiachon. Paano ko madedevelop holistic ang student with physical disabilities if ang sports development program ng school ay para lang sa normal students?
Yun nga sinasabi ko, mama. Ito yung, ang dami kong nakita ng mga estudyante na hindi nabibigyan ng sports development because ang binibigay lang na sports program ay para lang sa talagang merong inclination towards sports. Paano yung iba na, for me, it's very health and well-being is a program for, it's a school program for all, regardless of the physical conditions of our students. Dapat may sports pa rin or may sports program, health program for asthmatic, para so on so forth. No, ako kasi bata po, asthmatic ko, pero ang school namin sa Divine Word may swimming para daw sa mga asthmatic daw yun. O ba't ganun? So regardless, pero naiba lang ang programa na, pero lahat kami exposed to sports. I think I came up with this profiling because I've gone through a school na meron pong ganitong sistema pero hindi lang ganun ka-systematic na kumpleto ng domains. But tama po kayo, tama po kayo. Yun nga po ang sinasabi ko, hindi na di-develop ang holistical development ng mga bata natin dahil most of our other domains, school programs ng school, ito yung sinasabi po natin, yung physical, tapos ating social emotion, yung mga interest club are only specifically for some students. Dapat nagsisirculate ang mga bata niyan at may mga programa para sa kanila sa lahat ng klase ng estudyante. Otherwise, may mga bata tayo na matatalino lang tapos walang sports. O kung di wala ng sports, hindi alam ang well-being. Diba? O kaya matatalino pero hindi naman marunong makisama sa ibang tao. Pangit ang ugali. So hindi talaga holistic. So ito yung sinasabi ko ng mga the guidance counselor's office programs must not only for students with problems or students who are excelling but for all students. Pasensya po, that's how I see a school should function. Hindi yung the school's best programs and best activities are for the selected few. Nako, I'm so against that. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. And our next question is from Eulogio Embrado. Good PM po, gaano po ba ka-importante itong profiling sa modular na pamamaraan ng pagtuturo?
Yun nga po, ma'am. Nung nang-module po kayo dapat, bago kayo nagsulat ng module, pinasa na po sa inyo ng school ang profile ng mga bata para nalaman nyo, doon pa lang sa profile, sa profiling kasi nakalagay na doon yung student interest, ano ang kanilang literacy level para nalaman nyo paggawa ng modules ay ikikater ko, dapat ko kailangan pala konti lang yung words, mas maraming pictures kasi may mga estudyante ako na ang literacy level ay ito. Ay, kailangan ko pala i-modify yung activities ko kasi ito yung interest ng mga bata. Mahilig sila sa cartoons. So dapat ang mga pictures ko gagamitin dito ay so na-modify. The making of the module is now more effective dahil you have the necessary data. Basihan mo kung paano mo gagawin ang module. Ngayon po, ang basihan ng paggawa mo ng module mo is just academic. Yung learning competencies lang po at your experience, but not your learners. So I'm really sorry people out there, teachers out there, hindi po pang learner-centered po ang mga ginawa natin mga modules this year kung hindi po natin ginamitan ng student profiles. Kung kayo po ay nasa high school, kunwari, teachers kayo ng grade 7 to grade 10, na-receive nyo ba ang profile ng bata ng elementary? Alam nyo ba sa kanila, sino ba sa kanila ang non-readers pa? I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to use the word non-reader. Struggling readers. Marami ba mga estudyante ang mga struggling readers na pumasok sa junior high school? Kung ganun ba, effective ba ang dinevelop natin ng mga materials? Wait, yung mga ilan sa mga estudyante natin na pumasok sa junior high school ang may mahina sa numeracy, sa mathematics, sa early skills ng mathematics. Bakit ganito ang complicated ang mga materials ko sa math modules ko? So, importante po talaga for teachers to receive the profile. But I'm telling you, the student profiling system is not for individual teachers. It should have been done by the school. It is a school system. Kasi isa lang po doon ay nag-contribute si teacher sa like anecdotal record, contribution po ni teacher po yun. Yung academic profile po, contribution po ng ibang teacher sa mga grades. Paano po yung academic profile? Yun po yung mga advisors ng mga student organizations. Home visitations po, edi po pwede pong teacher, pwede po yung guidance counselor's office. What I'm trying to say with the profile po, kung ginawa po to natin nung nagsimula pa lang tayo sa K-12, lahat po ng planning ng teacher ay learner-centered lahat. At hindi masakit sa damdamin na may mga feedback na hindi nagustuhan ng bata, hindi appropriate, walang natutunan ng bata kasi non-readers, maraming struggling readers, mababang literacy level, and so on and so forth. Ang sakit sa teacher makarinig ng kanilang ginawa, pinagpagura mga modules ay hindi umakma sa pangangailangan ng mga bata. Hindi naman kasalanan ng mga teacher dahil hindi sila nakareceive ng student profiles. Thank you.
That's all the questions we have for now. Any last reminders to our viewers for today po?
Thank you. Welcome, of course. I should have put there, open forum na pala, Okay, let's proceed to conclusions, all right? So, just statements for us to be reminded of our discussion today. What our learners require today in schools is not just academic lessons. They need a learning development system. That's a school system that helps them understand themselves, their emotions, and their mental duress or capacity or struggles, while teaching them how to build up healthy and functional relationships, as well as develop resilience and team spirit is a true form of education. Student profiling system can address all of these education aspirations, not just academic, but non-academic, social, relations, physical and well-being, all of which will be addressed at makikita po natin ano pa talaga ang pangailangan ng mga bata ng iba. Student profiling promotes the holistic development of learners. By profiling learners as they enter formally organized information and data, both quantitative and qualitative, to ensure their intellectual, mental, physical, emotional, and social, that will make them capable of facing the demands and challenges of everyday life. These abilities are vitally important for success in personal, social, and professional fields of responsibility. Ito po yung nasasaktan po ako sa, may mga na-interview po akong mga estudyante na graduate sa public school at saka private schools na top 10. Tapos, pagdating sa college, nag-struggle sila kasi mahina ka ng socialization skills. Kasi they are, solitary learners. Or some students naman pagdating sa high school, nabubuntis agad kasi mahina ang kanilang relations. Matalino nga sila, valedictorian, salutatorian, pero pagdating sa college, natatanga sa mga gwapo at mga ganda. Dahil hindi nga natin sila binigyan ng other domains development. Puro lang tayo academic. Marami rin ako narinig na graduate ng college na tapos nasa top 10 pero pagdating hindi nakahanap ng trabaho. Hindi nakapag-board, hindi nakapasa ng board. These are things that we need to look into, that our system is very faulty, that we don't have a system that promotes holistic development and not just academic development of our students. hindi ko po sinasabi ito ay trabaho ng isang teacher. Ito po ay trabaho ng lahat ng tao sa school. And there must be one center that focuses on this. And I'm sorry to say this, but this should be under the guidance counselor's office. It's in that office that collects data from the teachers, okay, and supports the homeroom teachers and the advisors to make summaries for their exit profiles of the students to be submitted to the entry accepting teachers of a particular key stage. If you are able to do this, then I think the K-12 will really be uh, a good program that addresses the felt needs of our students. And I don't know if there are other ways we can help our teachers out there, but student profiling to me is a more holistic way for doing diagnosis. Anong gamit ng listening diagnosis? Anong gamit ng reading diagnosis? Saan natin siya ilalagay sa profile ng bata? Yun po importante. Kaya tinawag natin student profiling. Sa lahat ng mga results ng mga test ng mga bata, saan natin siya i-categorize sa profile ng bata para maintindihan natin ang kanilang development? Or puro lang tayo academic. Bumagsak ang bata, pumasa ang bata, bumagsak ang bata, pumasa ang bata. Bakit? Ano ang reason? What can we do to help them? On that note, I would like to leave all our teachers, our viewers, with a statement from one of my idols when I was still in college. Uh, uh, when I was designing, yung college kasi meron kaming curriculum instruction subject. And then one of our requirements for us to graduate from PNU is for us to design a curriculum. So I designed an octagon-based educational program, and I based it from Maria Montessori. All right, she said, education cannot be effective unless it helps a child open up himself to life sa totoong buhay. Now the question is, would helping our students become more academically developed help our students open up themselves to life? It could, but it's not the all of it. There are other domains that will help our students to be able to face and thrive in their own chosen lives. With that being said, I hope you learned something, and I am personally inviting you for our next week's webinar, which is on constructing diagnostic tools to help, yun na po, yung paggawa ng diagnostic tools para po sa student profile. Paano mag-listening, paggawa ng diagnostic for listening, for reading, and all of those na sinabi ko sa inyo. Yun na po, paano gumawa ng diagnostic tools para makagawa po tayo ng profile ng mga bata. Alright? So with that being said, thank you very much for this afternoon, and I hope we continue journeying together so that we become well-equipped to address the needs of our learners and grow together. Alam ko po na mahirapan po kayo sa imagine nyo paano gagawin ng profiling dahil sa distance education. So we will be thinking of modifying some of our presentations for the diagnosis and for assessment na through online and distance education. So we will think about that so that you can be, meron po kayong sample po ng kung paano ginagawa yan sa online, paano ginagawa yan sa distance education. All right? So with that, thank you very much. Do not hesitate to give us comments on how we can, improve our presentations and how we can provide you with more topics to provide you with in the future so that we can prepare in advance these topics. Thank you very much and have a good afternoon, all of you.
There we have it. In behalf of Vibal Group Incorporated, I would like to thank our speaker for today for this eye-opening and insightful learning session. It is an honor to have you with us today, brother. And to all our Kavibal viewers, all thanks to you for your continuous patronage to our daily learning session. Don't forget to register to get your e-certificate of participation. We also encourage you to subscribe and watch on our official Vibal Facebook and YouTube channel. Muli, maraming salamat at magandang araw sa ating lahat.